Hi everyone, Renata here. Today's video is a special one. We have a guest. Paula is a sex educator from UK and she helped us a lot, guided us how to include sex education in our homeschooling journey.
Hi everyone, my name is Paula. I'm from Poland. I live and work in London and I'm a sex educator.
Of the earth look completely.
I work in different schools in the UK. So I talk about sex and relationships to young people of different ages, and I also train professionals who are working with young people. So, for example, teachers, to make them feel more comfortable addressing the topic of sex or sexual health.
You know, having kids here on the farm, seeing animals doing different stuff, having different behaviors, turkeys, rabbits, dogs mating, that raised a lot of questions, how the babies are formed, from where the babies come from, and Paula managed it perfectly. So we hope after watching this video you will not be having this discomfort discussing or answering the questions from your kids around sex and relationships.
So my kids in the farm watch the rabbits doing things and come back to me and ask how our baby's formed. So just let's role play. You are the parent and how do you talk the talk?
So firstly, I would ask the child what they actually have seen and what they think about it. So how they feel about it. So obviously with different animals it will be sometimes very quick and sometimes it look a bit scary because it can be violent as well. So it's good to explain to kids that it shouldn't be painful, although for some animals, well, it is. But also we want to install some good messages there for humans. So we want to say that it should never be an uncomfortable or unpleasant. So of course, depending on the range, we can see that there's one female animal, whatever animal it is, and one male, and they're like their body parts are kind of match each other, and this is how people and other animals are built. So the bodies are built in a way that to match. So they basically they are in contact for sometimes very short time, which for birds can be just 1 second or 3 seconds, and then we can say sperm, for example. Sperm from the male comes to the female, and then if it meets with the egg, the pregnancy begins. So again, it depends on the age of a child, but it can be something very simple, sometimes very short, and if they keep asking more questions, then you can go more into detail.
How parents should prepare themselves before big talk?
So actually there's no such thing as one big talk, because relationships and sex education is a lifelong learning and lifelong teaching as well. So we don't have to be prepared for one conversation, and actually this is not really the right thing to do. But what is worth doing when we have a child, or we're even thinking about having a child, is to check in with ourselves what we actually think about what are our values related to children and their sexuality, or young people and their sexuality. And sexuality, by the word sexuality, I mean everything related to experiencing pleasure or thinking about sex. So not only about sexual activity, but anything. So humans are born as sexual creatures, so it depends on us as parents how comfortable we feel with this. So it's good to have a think what are our values and beliefs related to sex, and it can be anything. So would we allow young people to be sexually active? Would we allow them to explore their bodies just by themselves? How do we feel with this? So firstly, we can do this kind of work. Of course, there are many books or YouTube channels or Instagram channels that you can follow with lots of good advice.
First human beings. The first human beings. Okay. Stars of the earth look completely different from what it looks now. Ocean appeared and disappeared again. All the animals and plants had to keep changing their way of life.
What age should we start the topic then?
Every child is different, so they are going to think about these topics at different ages. So they're going to ask questions. So of course you address their questions. So it can be as early as 2 or 3 years old, but some children also are not going to ask questions, because maybe they're not thinking about it, maybe they're not interested. So you know your children the best, and you know what's best for them, and you know when it's the best time to start. I would say that we're not here, when we think about sex education, we are not only thinking about telling kids what sex is, but we also need to prepare them, of course, for other situations that may happen in their life. So unfortunately, we know that sexual harassment or sexual abuse is very common. So these conversations we need to have as early as possible. So we need to talk to them about safe touch and unsafe touch, and what does good touch feel like, and what is a threatening or scary touch, and if, unfortunately, hopefully not, but if it ever happens to them, they need to know that they can always come to their parents and to be able to talk to them freely, and they will not be shamed. They should not feel guilty, because whatever happens, it will never be their fault.
What type of words should we use for different age groups?
It's easier to say what not to say, or which words not to use. So firstly, we don't want to use slang words. Our children will finally learn slang words related to different sexual activities, but these are not the first words that they should learn. Secondly, there is no harm in using medical words with very young children as well, because as we name all other body parts, so we say that this is an elbow and this is a knee, there is no shame in naming all other body parts, so because these are medical words. And also, if they ever have a medical issue, maybe they're in pain, maybe something is going on, if they go to a doctor, they should be able to tell us what's happening to them, so no harm in that. Also, I wouldn't ever lie to children about how sex happens and what is sex and how pregnancy happens. Sometimes parents feel a little bit embarrassed and they say that, oh, maybe it's a special hug that adults have, or maybe when they kiss, pregnancy happens, but this can really scare young people, and they may feel that, oh my god, what if I kiss someone? What if I hug someone? Am I going to have a baby? So I would just not say anything like that. It's better to say what actually happens, but obviously in a simplified version, if we're talking to a 3-5-year-old, and then we can add more and more information, and we can say something very simple and general, and if they keep asking, we can give them more information.
Okay.
How long and how often should the talk last?
So, because we already know that there is no one big talk, these are many, many small conversations that happen because of many different occasions. So, for example, sex education, again, it's not only about sex, so it's about relationships, it's about friendships. So this is the information that you give your children every day, right? How to live with other people, and how to be friendly, and how to be kind. So this is one part. Consent, super important topic, but not only in a sexual context. Consent, again, we give consent or we appreciate or respect other people's boundaries every day. So this is something that you already do. That's also a very important part of sex education. And then when they get older, obviously we add more information related to sex. So yeah, especially consent, I would say it has to be repeated. For things like contraception or sexually transmitted infections, these are different topics. They will come a little bit later. But again, we start with small bits and we add more. So this is not like a big task that you have to do.
What should parents do to gain kids' trust and openness before the talk?
This is very, very important, and these are all the little things that you can do even since the baby is born. So for example, how you treat nudity, how you treat the way the kids touch themselves when they explore their body. So if parents react like, oh my god, don't do it, it's like, oh my god, don't think about it. Or if they ask a question and you say, no, you are too young, it will come later, or I will explain it to you later, or this is an adult thing, blah blah blah. So you dismiss their questions basically, and then they quickly learn that this is not something that they're supposed to ask you. So then unfortunately they may not come again if they have a question. So I would say that always acknowledge their question, don't make fun of it, even though sometimes it can be funny, but we have to keep a straight face, or we shouldn't be shocked if they ask something shocking. It can also happen, but it's really important to acknowledge them that yes, it's a valid question, but just maybe correct if they have some incorrect information, just to correct them, and just let them know that if anything happens to them, they can always come to you, and they are not going to be judged.
So, what are the top 3 questions that kids ask you?
Depends on the topic of the session. So children usually ask about things that have never been covered before. So something that the media, the information that media or parents will not provide them. So it can be something related to sexual activity, to sex itself, so different things sexually that people do. Sometimes contraception, the availability of contraception as well, and sometimes sexually transmitted infections, pleasure as well sometimes. So lots of different questions.
What's the most embarrassing question you ever had, and how did you handle it?
I don't even keep it in my memory because I wouldn't even call it embarrassing. Sometimes teachers think that questions that young people ask us, because there is a teacher in the room there, so sometimes they feel embarrassed by their questions, but I never get embarrassed because these are all valid questions, so they come from somewhere. So if it's not a personal question, I'm going to answer it. But if it's a personal question, I would not do that because this is the boundary. So obviously, I don't want young people to remember anything related to my life because this is not relevant. I want to give them information. So this is also another tip for parents as well, because obviously children may ask you personal questions about your past relationships or your experiences. So again, you need to find the line in yourself where is your limit basically, and how much you want to tell them, not to make anyone uncomfortable.
How to prepare older generations for sex talk?
This is a good question. Unfortunately, our values and our approach to parenting may clash with everyone around us. So our grandparents or people around us, or someone at school may not agree with our approach. So unfortunately, it's not that easy to change their minds. But we can try, and we can try to make them understand what is our approach, why are we talking in this way, and because we want to keep our kids healthy and safe. But they may not agree with us, and unfortunately we have no control over that.
How do we handle uncomfortable questions?
With straight face in the first place. We don't get annoyed with our children. We don't tell them that this is too much, this is inappropriate, etc. Unless maybe if you want to correct some of their vocabulary. So for example, they bring a slang word, maybe they use a slang word because they don't know any better word. So firstly, we don't shame them for anything they bring to us. I think this is a good sign. It means that they trust us. So we should be grateful that they actually want to talk to us and want to share. So coming from this perspective, it will be less uncomfortable, but it depends what kind of question it is. It can be a personal question that you don't want to answer. It can be something that you may not have updated knowledge on. So you can tell them, I will check, just give me one day. I will let you know, I will let you know tomorrow, but not like in a year time, but I will come back to you. Or you give them a website, maybe written for young people, where they can search more. So, or a book, of course, depending on what they...
Can you recommend some website, YouTube channel, or ebook?
Of course. So for example, in English there is the organization that I work for in the UK. It's called Brook. So the website is brook.org.uk. It's a great website for young people, and all the articles have been written with this intention. So also parents can read it.
It's only in English, right?
It's only in English, and parents can read it also to see what kind of language is used there and how we approach these topics. There is an American website called Sex Positive Families, also very nice. It's obviously more targeted at parents. They have very big YouTube channel actually, so there are lots of different videos for different age groups, so for younger children and older young people as well. So lots of resources that we can use.
How to have a talk when kids don't want to have a talk?
When they're young, there is a high chance that they will listen to you, but of course when they grow up...
And they will ask questions to us.
Yes. But when they grow up, when they become teenagers and they know more and more about sex, they may feel uncomfortable. But I think if we laid a good foundation beforehand, they may still want to listen to us. I think it all depends what has happened before. So if you avoided this topic for 15 years, obviously a young person is not going to be happy about you now telling them how pregnancy happens. So, but I think if parents did a good job, I think they will still listen. And it's not only about providing them with knowledge, it's also making them sure that if
they can ask questions.
They can ask, and also if there is any difficult situation in their lives, they can always come to you.
What is the message that you want to tell people?
Sex education is not that much about sex as people think. It's more about health and safety of children. Okay, once again. So many people are a little bit afraid of the idea of delivering sex education to children, but it's not really about sex. It's more about health and safety of children. So this is what we should focus on, and this is what we should have in mind. And that's why we need to talk about their bodies. We need to talk about abuse, unfortunately, because we need to prepare them to live in the world around us. So yeah, let's not shy away from these topics, and these are normal topics to discuss.
Okay, cool.